and say good evening, Corona Daze Professional Development Group. Thank you for joining us either in the Zoom room or on Facebook. This evening, I am pleased to have with us Lisa Fenton, and she's going to talk to us about the return to work plan. So let me just give you Lisa's bio, and then you know me, I'm going to turn it over to Lisa shortly after I read this. So again, Lisa's going to talk to us about a return to work plan. She's going to cover pep talks, preparing for networking events and interviews, gap analysis, and personal game plan, all right? Lisa Fenton is a certified supply chain management professional, supply chain manager, and an advocate of championing those who have had gaps in employment back to work with a focus on negotiating beyond salary. She created a workbook, 12 steps to return to work to help others just start their journey and customize their path back to the workforce with a bonus section, 7 steps to negotiating a job offer. Now, we've been talking about this for a while in the group. There are many people in the group who are going to be returning to work. So please join me in welcoming Lisa Fenton. And I'm going to mute myself and close.
Hi, good evening. 4 takeaways to propel you towards finding possibilities along your return to work journey. Lisa here from Propelled by Possibility. I'm a mom of 3 amazing young men, and now after being home for 12 years with them and almost 11 years back in the workforce, I'm helping others on their return to work journey with the focus on negotiating beyond salary. Let's explore the power of a pep talk. Takeaway number 1. You are just like them. I arrive at the beautiful Weston Harbour Castle Hotel at the edge of Lake Ontario in downtown Toronto. I've got a fresh haircut, a new suit, a pen, a portfolio, and a handful of custom created networking cards that I created. I enter the grand lobby and make my way to the conference area. I stand back from the doors and watch the other attendees register and gather their name tags. I give myself a once over and tell myself, you are just like them. You are no different. You just don't have a company name on your hello tag under your name. Now, let's go get an opportunity. I enter the large room overlooking sparkling Lake Ontario. I meet lots of wonderful individuals, hear some presentations, and visit with some vendors. One of the ladies that I get talking with seems very interested in how I'm approaching my return to work journey. We get chatting and she asks if I would like to write an article for her. I was so excited I could hardly sit still during the rest of the presentations or on the train ride home. It was published a few months after I got my first job of being out of the workforce for 12 years and distributed across Canada. The power of a pep talk. Use your inner voice for direction. Feel courageous. No one knows you and your strengths better than you. Amp up your value of your message by talking in third person. Use positive language and be specific. Address yourself in third person. It helps to reduce your stress. I was walking into that room expecting to hear about possible opportunities, meet some nice people, and an opportunity came by that I never could have imagined would materialize. But that pep talk was the key to letting me have the power to walk through those doors after being home for 12 years with our boys. This leads us to takeaway number 2. Get professional, which I believe really helped me feel more confident to think of myself as one of them. How was I going to put my best foot forward? Well, I had already got my haircut, I had my new suit, my pen, I had dusted off my portfolio, but a few other things that I did included updating my resume and cover letter, updating my social media accounts. I volunteered to get a current reference so that I was up to date in that area. And I created networking cards from stock cards from Staples, along with Googling how to do that and created a networking card for myself. I hope you're going to laugh because takeaway number 3 is actually kind of funny. Takeaway number 3 is plan for your life like it's a big project. So it is kind of funny because I stepped back and I asked myself all these questions. I was a mom who had no direction of how to get back in the workforce and very little support for moms returning to work at that time. So I actually considered myself to be the problem, which is kind of funny, but that's how you kind of start asking lots of questions. So I'll share with you the problem-solving steps that I learned in some case studies, which to being out of the workforce. So I won't drill into each one individually, but I'll just give you a brief overview of how I use these problem-solving steps to help along my journey. The first section, the executive summary, is basically just kind of a summary of everything once you've worked through all the steps, so it gets done at the very end. But what I did was, to get my personal game plan, I looked at 3 areas to put in the criteria for this problem-solving steps. So I looked at our family, myself, and the economy. So I had 3 little boys who were very young at the time, and I needed to help them transition back to, to having a mom who was going to work because they had never known me to be out of the house. So in considering them and working through these steps, I needed to think about things like, how was I going to get them to and from school? What kind of care would be available if I needed care for them? What would I do on sick days and professional development days and March break and stuff like that? How much was this all going to cost? And all those things I put into these steps as well as the other 2 criterias. So I wanted to make sure the transition was good for them. So when I went to look at myself, I looked at my 3 skills that I had before I left the workforce. And then I drilled into the economy. So for the economy, even like now, back then when I returned, it was during the worst recession, 2008, 2009. So what companies were hiring during that time, even though it was a recession? I grabbed a local economic report and determined what companies were doing well, because there's still companies out there doing well. I looked at what positions they were hiring for. Then I looked at what 3 common skills they were looking for of those postings. And then I looked at it versus mine. So that's kind of how I worked through this problem-solving steps. And you could do the same with your criteria as well. But really, I needed to find a way to determine how I would go forward with my discovery. So combining these steps with a gap analysis tool, which is a tool that helps you determine all your skills that you want to either upgrade or are new to getting. So you would put the skill that you have, the skill that you need, the difference in the levels, the cost, and then you would rank it in terms of importance based on your findings from, like I said, the economic report, where I drilled into the 3 most common skills that people were looking for versus my skills. And that's how I ranked my training plan. So I really wanted to minimize the amount of time and money that I was going to spend, because I had done volunteering at a local school during lunch to get about $1,600 to use for this training budget. So it was really, really tight in terms of money, and the time was also very challenging with 3 little boys at home. So that's how you can combine a problem-solving step and a gap analysis and create your own personal game plan, which will really give you a focused plan and a very detailed plan of action to go forward with. Which brings us to our next takeaway. Takeaway number 4, be your own champion. So I can imagine you're sitting there thinking, after 12 years of being home, how could you present value to a current employer or one who is interviewing you? So it's all about taking what you have, and maybe you just need to refresh it. You need to just upgrade it slightly, or maybe you can learn new things on your own, which is also part of the plan in the gap analysis tool. You can include free training as well so that you make sure that you're on track. So it started with a voice message I left on an HR lady's voicemail system. Hi, it's Lisa. I have inside sales, customer service, and purchasing experience. I'd like to join your company and I'm interested in leaving a resume and cover letter for you. I can be reached at, and then I left my telephone number. Thinking I would not hear back from her, I continued along my journey. She actually did call back, which was surprising, and she asked if I could send her a copy of my resume and cover letter. So I sent that information to her and thought, oh, I'm probably not going to hear back. Continued on my way, networking and just cold calling, trying to find opportunities to find out about jobs which were not posted. So she did actually call back, and I was surprised. She said, well, we have a customer service job coming up. We would really like you to come in for an interview. So I was really excited because it was a local company. It wasn't too far away. They had some products that I was somewhat familiar with from before I had left the workforce. So it was a good fit in terms of a good place to explore an opportunity. So how was I going to put my best foot forward in that interview? How was I going to show my value? Because I know so many people, when they have a gap, think that they don't want to highlight that gap. They're really afraid. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to mention it. It's actually the opposite. You should actually highlight your gap. And the reason being is that so many times you have amazing transferable skills that you've gained during that time, and you really need to bring that forth. You need to show, maybe you've been caring for an elder, maybe you've been caring for an ill child, maybe you've been on a personal journey to update your skills, maybe you've been volunteering. Like, there's many, many reasons for having a gap in employment, and you really need to highlight what you've gained during that time. So how I proceeded to put my best foot forward, I contacted some previous coworkers. I researched the company that I was going to be interviewing at. I researched the individuals who are going to be interviewing me. I gathered my networking cards so I could present a professional appearance. When they handed me their card, I would be able to hand mine to them. And I also updated my resume, got extra copies of my resume and cover letter. I brought along a PowerPoint presentation. I had taught myself PowerPoint and Visio during the summer from some manuals, just page by page taught myself. I had asked for them for Mother's Day, so it didn't cut into my training budget because those manuals were pretty reasonable. And we purchased a used laptop for my husband's work, so I was able to just on my own go through PowerPoint and Visio and teach myself those two skills, which probably would have cost, I don't know, a couple $100 each or more, and the time to go get those as well. So for Visio, I created a timeline of my return to work journey from start to finish, and I plotted all along the line milestones, either free courses or any type of upgrading that I was going to do, with the end goal at the end of a year to be to get a job. I'd given myself a 1-year timeline because I felt I wasn't going to be able to just jump back into a job after having a little bit lengthy time being out of the workforce. So I took all those with me to the interview, walked in, greeted them, was energetic, was positive, was able to present a professional appearance when handing my networking card. They handed their business cards. We were all dressed very similar, so it felt very comfortable. And, they went through the process of interviewing me, and then they said, well, do you really know about our company? I said, yeah, absolutely. I did my research. And so I shared a few things that I had found out about their products and their history and that. And then they kind of wanted to turn it around and have a fun game of it. So we kind of did like a trivia where I was asking them the questions and we ended up laughing and having a great time. I'm unusual because I like interviews. I want to go into an interview like it's a research project. I want to find out, is it a good fit for me? Do they have goodwill in the industry? Do they have good sustainability practices? Do they offer their employees proper equipment and training? Do they support education reimbursement? All these kinds of things that will make it a good place for me to fit in and a positive result for both parties. So I went in, had a great interview, and came out with an offer. So I was happy. I was able to demonstrate, through this game plan. I told them about it. I explained the gap analysis tool and how I use that. And so you can create value. You can create the value. You can grow the value. You can champion the value, and you can have fun in an interview. I know it sounds weird, but if you are prepared and have a plan and have a focus, you can enjoy it and you can, make sure that it's a good fit for you. So that's how the interview went. And for about 3 months, I was in that position and I was doing everything I could to move forward to the next position because in my mind, I had set another goal of another year that I wanted to progress back into supply chain because in my plan, I had a short-term goal of just getting back to work so that I could get back in the workforce and be able to afford the courses that I wanted to take for my long-term goal, which was getting back to supply chain. So I was in the position for 3 months, the customer service position with the headset, and it was really go, 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 and it was lots of product knowledge and lots of learning. They had excellent training. So I did as much as I could. I asked lots of questions. I job shadowed other people. They gave us the opportunity to job shadow. I took what they did in their day to get through their day and added it into my routine. I visualized where I wanted to be next, like within that 1-year time period. I visualized going to the planning department and where I wanted to sit and the desk and the job that I wanted to have. And I was fortunate that 3 months, almost 3 months, my 3 months was almost up and, excuse me, and they came to me and said, well, she's leaving. This planner had put her hand up and said she was leaving. They knew that I was interested, and I approached my boss and I said, well, I just want to make sure, you're okay with it. She wasn't the happiest because I had just finished getting trained. However, I kind of told her that, it'll be good for both of us because I know exactly the questions that you're looking to be answered for your team, but I'll be on the other side helping you from the supply chain side. So I was fortunate in that she was willing to let me go to the interview. And so I did all the same kind of preparation. I called my contacts, said I'm looking again, reviewed my supply chain notes, reviewed negotiation notes, just got in the same kind of mindset, but only for supply chain versus customer service. Went to the interview and was fortunate. I got the job and stayed there for another 9 months or so. And so you can get back in the workforce, you can show your value, you can grow your value, and you can move forward. That was one of the the biggest fears I had was that I would get back in the workforce and not be able to move forward. So um, you can do it. You are just like them. And I hope that, you have now in your uh, toolkit a game plan and a problem-solving steps, and a tool, the gap analysis tool, which can help you create your own personal project management plan, and know that there's the gap analysis tool again that would help you determine and allocate how to go through ranking in importance your training that you wanted, and it can even include free things like the manuals or online training as well. So I want to thank you, and I hope that now you feel the most important takeaway is that you are just like them. I invite you to follow me at #PropelledByPossibility.
Thank you, Lisa. Okay, here I am. All right. Thank you, Lisa. Can you share with us about some stuff about LinkedIn, your journey with LinkedIn?
Oh, sure.
So can you share that story?
The LinkedIn story, I'm not sure.
Yeah, about commenting and then connecting with the woman and ultimately going to talk to the women
Oh,
in
yes.
Chicago.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, so all along my journey, I've been championing women back to work, and that includes writing articles, public speaking, doing blogs. And I just want you to know that one little connection can lead to something that you didn't even think could materialize. Same thing with walking into that networking event. I never thought that an opportunity such as publishing an article would materialize. So I sent a connection request to a lady who is in charge of an organization called I Relaunch. It's based in Boston. I did not know this lady. I just simply sent a cold message to her. And I just said, I'm really happy that you have such an organization. I wish this was available when I was on my journey. I now do this in my spare time. I help other women with a focus on negotiating. And we got talking on LinkedIn, and she said, well, I'd really like to hop on a call with you, like a phone call. So we did a Zoom call. We got chatting, and we felt it was a really good fit for both of us. So she invited me to do a podcast with her. So I did a podcast, and then we both had a great time. So then she invited me to do some blogs for them. So I've written a couple blogs for them. Then after that, she wanted me to do another podcast, not for returning to work so much, but more for women in supply chain and what opportunities are available, because supply chain is such a broad career option. You can start at entry level and you can work your way all the way to the C-suite. There are so many opportunities for everybody at any stage. And the great thing is you can learn along the way. You can take the courses, like I did my designation part-time while I was going through these entry-level jobs and mid-level jobs, and now where I am, I'm done my designation, but you can combine learning and experience. So she had me on a podcast for that, and then I did a couple more blogs for her, and then she invited me to speak at their annual conference, which was at Northwestern University in Chicago. So I was so thrilled. I was on a panel with another lady, and we had a lady moderator asking us questions. And we basically were in front of a couple hundred women from all across the US, very highly educated women, which was a little bit intimidating because honestly, I mean, these ladies, some of them were lawyers, doctors, some of them had multiple degrees. The skill set of these women was just mind-blowing. I mean, kudos to them for all their efforts. And the funny thing is, like I mentioned in my talk, people are very unsure to highlight that gap. And even these women who have multiple degrees and multiple multiple businesses, degrees, options, education, they're even hesitant to highlight their gaps, which I could not believe. That was the one thing that I really took away from that conference that was utterly mind-blowing. Like, here's these extremely qualified, extremely intelligent women, and they're even shy of bringing up the fact that they might have had 6 months off or 6 years off, or whatever the time frame was. They're perfectly qualified, but oftentimes it's that little inner critic in your head. So you are just like them. I really want us to remember we are just like them. And so it was just an amazing experience.
I love it. Yes, you are just like them. Okay, let me go to the chat before I go to my questions. All right, so I recently started a part-time job and I have 5 young children. This has been an informative discussion. It takes courage to step out in this manner after so many years. Reviewing negotiation notes, very smart. I love interviews also. You get to tell your story and show the value you bring to the organization. Okay, so I just had comments, no questions. Let me see if we have any in the Zoom room. And I don't have any in the Zoom room. Okay, I wanted to ask you about the highlighting the gaps. So what are ways that, okay, so maybe you volunteer in your children's school, maybe you write a blog, so do you put them on your LinkedIn profile? Where do they go when you're highlighting these gaps?
Yeah, you can separate like your jobs from volunteer experiences.
Mm-hmm.
You just use a title like volunteer at whatever
Okay.
the organization is, and then you can list those
And
skills.
put them on the LinkedIn
Yeah, and I
profile.
mean, you can do any title you want in LinkedIn. That's the beauty of it, is like you can do blogger, you can do writer, you can do podcast guest host.
Mm-hmm.
You can expand on any experience that you've had, and just get creative with it, because really it's the value that you're bringing, right? Maybe you've been managing elder care, so you're managing medicine, you're managing appointments, that's scheduling. You just got to think of what kind of words it converts to in the business world, and then
Mm-hmm.
try to bring the two together, I think, because those gaps are so important. Like, there's so many skills that these women had.
Yeah.
I heard their stories and I was like, it was just incredible. Like,
Yeah, there is a certain amount of shame associated with staying home and taking care of a parent or a child, or getting over an illness of your own, if it
yeah,
was extended. I'm hoping that with everything we have going on with COVID and people are becoming more empathetic and sympathetic and, dealing with their own challenges, that people will be a little more open in this area, so that it's not so much shame associated with, I just took a break because of
yeah.
life. It doesn't make, like you say, you're just like them. It doesn't make you any less of a person for taking a break.
No.
In taking a break, you may have enhanced skills that you didn't even know you had, you know? So I'm gonna go to our 3 questions. Well, no. Let me just ask you about supply chain. So when you went back in, you knew you knew you wanted to go to supply chain.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So when you're talking to your clients who Propel by Possibility, are you helping them zero in on a particular position or particular industry, and then you help them figure out how they get into that?
No, because it's more like you're looking at your transferable skills,
Okay.
because many of your skills can be used in different career options.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really more identifying, like, maybe you have that budgeting skill or the scheduling
Mm.
skill. You're strong in those areas. So there's many jobs that can be that you can use those skills in. A lot of
Okay.
times we get stuck in this mindset of, this is a job description and you need da 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 da. but it's not really like there's so many other skills that are included in everyday what we do in our jobs that people kind of get a narrow view of something, and you really kind of like transferable skills like customer service. You're helping people. You're still helping people when you're in supply chain. It's just now you have all the customers. You have the internal customers, you have the external customers, you have your coworkers, which are your customers. So it's really taking your view and expanding on it, I guess.
Yeah, and that's actually an art, Lisa, to be able to do that. Like, seriously, like this is why when career changers or, now that the whole world has changed, people are having a lot of difficulty transitioning to different fields because they don't know how to make those dotted lines between the skills that they were, had for years and how do they apply in other industries and sectors. So I could see that if you're a person who can do that as a coach, that's an art, because, you sometimes you even have to say to a person, hey, that was customer service what you were doing, and they may not realize it because they only served internal customers, but yeah, they were your customers, So I think that is an art, and I could see a lot of people coming to you for that one, because I'm always looking for people too in the group to come in and talk to us about transition. Like, what do you do? Okay, so I've been in hospitality, and I've worked as a hotel manager for the last 12 years, and travel is now sinking. Well, what can I do? Right? Like, what are the first things that people do to figure out? I know it's like you take this assessment, this skills assessment, but oftentimes people need that nudge, or they need someone else to say, hey, well, yes, you were customer service. No, you weren't at the desk anymore. And you can take that hospitality customer service and apply it to property management or whatever it is, right? But we can't always see that. So that's why I say it is definitely a gift that you can do that you can make those connections, because a lot of people can't make those connections.
Yeah, and it's funny too, like sometimes when you tell your story to somebody, you don't even see the thread that's woven all the way through. And they, just telling your story, they realize, oh my gosh, you have this, you're a continuous learner. You've continuously done this all the way through, and you don't even realize.
Yeah.
I had somebody say that to me, and I was like, I never thought of it that way. But when you share your story, these little points all kind of present the whole picture. And sometimes you have to step back, and it doesn't always come from your view. It's oftentimes people who see you and they're like, oh no, you're really good at this and you're good at, and then it kind of becomes a clearer picture.
Yeah. So I like that. I like all of it. Let me go and see if we have anything in the chat before I come to, there are more comments, but I'm not bringing them up. I know that I'll see them later, because it says 9 comments are here. I only see 4. All right, so I'm going to go with my questions, Lisa. I always have problems at this point.
That's okay.
Everyone knows that, right? I think I'm getting better though. The more I host, I'm getting a little better. So I usually read our full mission. Let me just bring it up so that I don't mess it up. I should know it by heart, right? So I asked these 3 questions to all of our presenters. And so I'm going to ask you. All right, Lisa?
Sure.
So,
Thank you.
CDPD's mission is to increase marginalized groups' access to employment opportunities and representation in the workforce by providing our members with free training, mentorship, and other resources. CDPD was created in response to record unemployment and underemployment stemming from the COVID-19 pandemic. Lisa, can you tell us if you were ever marginalized, and if so, how or why?
I don't think so, but I think that sometimes in general, we as women, when we're at that boardroom table and when we're the only woman there, we really need to take up more space. We need to take up more physical space and be, like the guys are like this. They're like,
Yeah.
they've got their stuff all laid out and they're comfortable, and we're like, we need to put our presence at that table. I've not been in a marginalized situation, but I see that often we think we don't have what they have to contribute, and honestly, we have more. We have more. We have more ladies.
Thank you. All right. So our next question, Lisa, is if you were to go back in time and not when you return to the job market after your children, but when you first started your career journey, is there something that you know now that you think would have added value to your journey or more value to your journey if you knew it back then? Something you wish you knew?
Yeah, I wish I would have championed for my value more in the beginning. I kind of got my voice back when I went back to work after I was more mature. Excuse me. But being younger, we don't have that confidence yet.
And so would you say that it
Excuse me.
affected your salary going forward, or it affected the the way you were able to advance going forward because you didn't?
I think early on in my career, yes. When I got back in, no, because
No.
I was really focused on that and moving forward to try to catch up because I had been out of the workforce for so long. But I think when I was younger, we don't know to use our voice as much when we're that junior person. And I think sometimes we lose out because they say, for example, if you negotiate $5,000 more for your first career position when you come out of school, it can make between $600 and $1 million difference over a 40-year career.
Yes, because if you start out with a higher salary, you're going to always
Yeah,
have a higher salary. It's going to, yeah.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
I see it. I usually ask one last question, but I'm going to ask two similar questions. So the first one I'm going to ask is, and it's because you successfully re-entered the job market after 12 years, 13 years, right?
Where's you?
What would you say to someone, particularly a mom, who is out of the market so long? What would you want that mom to take away from today?
Definitely that you are just like them, because I think a lot of what when we want to project our confidence, we're fighting that inner critic, and you need to shush that inner critic, and it'll help you project the confidence because everybody has value, and you don't want to, like I said, you want to highlight the skills that you've had during that gap. So quieting that inner critic and showing that confidence and presenting those skills is really going to make a huge difference in how you come across when you're sitting on at that table, at that interview.
I love it. So, and then I'm going to ask you the same question. Just what do you want us to walk away with today? Is it anything different, or let me just say this: is there any final thoughts? I'll say that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we don't think that we can like have that gap and then show our values. So, it doesn't take a lot of money. Like I showed you in my, like I talked about in my presentation, some of the skills that I upgraded myself or learned from start, I just got a manual for Mother's Day. And so training doesn't have to cost a lot. You can do lots of free resources. Sometimes adult learning centers have like a 1-day course, even a 1-day course just to get familiarity and just to be able to put it on your on your cover letter or your resume. And then you can expand on it once you're in the workforce. So your short-term goals, do as much as you can free. And then your long-term goals, once you're back in that position, you can then afford to build on the skills and take more training.
Okay. All right. I have a couple more comments. Questions. Yes, being a stay-at-home mom is sometimes frowned upon. Lisa, what gave you that sign you needed to know you were ready to re-enter the work field?
It was a combination of two things. One was our boys, we have 3 boys. So our youngest was going to be going back to grade 1, so being in school full time. And the other thing was it was a recession. So it was a really bad recession here in Canada. I'm assuming the US was pretty similar with the economy at that time. And we were kind of concerned that we were going to be a family of 5 with no income. So the combination of those two things, and also the fact that I did want to get back into the workforce just for myself. So those kind of all came at the same time. But yeah, mostly the kids were ready. Like the oldest one was in a position where he could watch the youngest one for a very short time after school, which kind of helped as well because daycare in Canada, I don't know about the US, but it's outrageous.
Oh yeah, it is.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, so for the first 6 months, I had them going to a neighbor, which was one of the ladies of the kids' friends. She did care before school. And so we tried that for 6 months. And then the next year, they were just that much older to be okay for a little bit before and a little bit after. But I think that's a challenge for women is the care options are expensive. They're not always easy to arrange, and they're not, you don't have backup if they're sick, right? Like what, those are unfortunate things that we fight all along the way, and the cost is sometimes prohibitive, right?
I know families. I lived in Georgia for a couple of years, and every time someone at the job had a baby, either the husband or the wife left work. So, like maybe a guy would say, it depended on who made more money. So if the wife made more money, you knew that this guy would be going, he'd leave. And you're like, why? I said, oh, because it costs more than I make, like, oh my goodness. I never encountered that. All right. So Rhonda says, yes. Oh, no, sorry. So everyone is focused on technical skills, but you can learn and be trained. Yes, you can apply all skills gained in your varying experiences. Yes, Lisa, we need to shush that inner critic. I think that is too. There's some core skills. What do you think, Lisa? Like, I think there are some core skills that we need. Emotional intelligence, as Rhonda says, communication. And then there are other things that we can be trained on, right? How do you?
Absolutely. Like myself, like I took Excel and Word way back in college. So really when I was going back, I just needed to refresh. I didn't need to take a 6-week course. I just needed to take that one free day course and then the course for 1 week and go from there. And I mean, I even challenged myself. Like I looked at the courses and I thought there's beginning, intermediate, and advanced times Word and Excel. So that's 6 courses times a couple $100 each plus 1 week each. There was no way I could do all that on my budget, and no way I had the time with 3 little boys to be away from home for 6 weeks. So I knew, like I looked at the manual, when I was there for the free 1-day course, grabbed the manual and said, I can do this advanced course. Just put me in the advanced course and I'll do it. And the instructor thought I was crazy, but I just said, you know what, I don't have a choice. This is what I need. This is what I need to do. So sometimes when you push yourself, you're able to do more than you think you can do, right?
Yeah, right. All right, I don't have anything else. So I am going to, it's going to come up afterwards, Lisa. You know how it is with me. These questions will come up after in the chat. I don't have anything on Zoom either. So I want to say thank you. I really appreciate you for sharing with us this evening, Lisa. I appreciate you for
You're
being,
welcome.
yeah, I appreciate you for being in the group. And you always chime in, and I want to hear from everyone. And you are definitely an active CDPD member. So you
Thank you.
know you're welcome to come back. If you ever want to come back and do anything, just let me know.
Yeah, I would love to. And if anybody would like to connect with me on LinkedIn or LinkedIn is probably the best place because then I can identify, like it's nice because you can send a message saying,
Mhm.
you know, I would like to connect because I saw you in the group. Facebook is a little, I'm a little leery to connect with people
Yeah.
on Facebook just because I don't know, there's no way to invite people. It's a strange
Mhm.
thing about Facebook. So I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. You're welcome to follow me on all of those. And if anybody has any questions, I'm always happy to help out.
Thank you, Lisa.
You're
Again, I
welcome.
appreciate you and have a good evening.
Thank you. You too.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.